This is a guy who also wants to replace every civil servant, every single one. Thinks he has a right under the Supreme Court ruling on immunity to be able, if need be, if it was the case, to actually physically eliminate, shoot, kill someone who he believes to be a threat to him. I mean, so I know this sounds bizarre. It sounds like if I said this 5 years ago, you'd lock me up. We gotta lock him up. Politically lock him up.
All right, guys, so what we just witnessed there is a clearly mentally declining Joe Biden telling the truth, saying the quiet part out loud about what Democrats really want to do to President Trump, which is to lock him up. Now, part of me kind of believes that Joe Biden is saying this on purpose because he knows that it's a bad look for him to come out here and to say out loud that the Democrats want to lock up President Trump, especially considering how the mainstream liberal media right now is boohoo, whining and crying and fear-mongering about Trump wanting to lock up his political opponents, right? The whole enemies within type of thing that they continue to talk about on national television. But yet Joe Biden just came out and said that, yeah, we must lock up former President Trump, right? Like, we have to lock him up. This is what Joe Biden said. He's the current sitting president talking about locking up his political opponent. Now, will the media boohoo, whine, and cry about that for 48 hours straight like they did about Trump and his enemies from within comments? Probably not. They'll probably just sweep it under the rug like they always do. But if the media actually cared about politicians coming out here and talking about locking up their political opponents, then they would actually care about what Joe Biden just said. Again, because he is sitting president and the DOJ is currently trying to lock up former President Trump, right? His DOJ is currently trying to do that, right? Again, you would think that this is something the mainstream liberal media would care about, but they don't really care about this. They won't care about this. Just like they didn't care about Josh Shapiro and Democrats coming out talking about investigating and locking up Elon Musk, okay? Yeah, they seem to not really care that much about it when Democrats openly talk about locking up Republicans and Trump supporters, right? It's kind of funny how that works. But one thing that is hard to sweep under the rug, they actually failed at sweeping this under the rug, period, is Joe Biden's mental decline, which is what Kamala Harris was confronted on in this interview with NBC News, in which she clearly gets frustrated with the fact that she was asked this question in regards to her judgment and whether or not she was aware of Joe Biden's mental decline as she was working with him as vice president. Take a look.
You and Donald Trump. Those are the candidates on the ballot. There's only two choices. Yes. And I know that Joe Biden is not on the ballot. I understand that. But the reason that you are at the top of the ticket is because he dropped out of this race. And so I want to ask you, and it was largely because of that debate performance back in June. You defended him in the days before and in the days after as you were campaigning for another 4 years for President Biden. Can you say that you were honest with the American people about what you saw in those moments with President Biden as you were with him again and again, repeatedly in that time?
Of course. Joe Biden is an extremely accomplished, experienced, and capable in every way that anyone would want if they're president.
You never saw anything like what happened at the debate night behind closed doors with him?
It was a bad debate. People have bad debates. He is absolutely.
But that's the reason why you're here, and he's not running for the top of the ticket.
Well, you'd have to ask him if that's the only reason why.
What do you think?
I am running for president of the United States. Joe Biden is not. And my presidency will be about bringing a new generation of leadership to America that is focused on the work that we need to do to invest in the ambitions and aspirations of the American people.
It's a judgment question. That's why I ask. Can the American people trust you in these moments, even when it's maybe uncomfortable for Americans to level with Americans in that way? So that's why I ask. And it sounds like what you're saying is you feel like you never saw anything like that from President Biden.
I have worked with Joe Biden, hours and hours and hours over these 4 years, whether it be in the Situation Room or the Oval Office. Joe Biden is the one who was able to bring NATO together during a crisis where, for the first time in 70 years, Europe saw and has seen war. Joe Biden has done the work that has been about being a leader on what we have done to fix so much of what has been broken in terms of the economy because of Donald Trump's mismanagement. I speak with not only sincerity, but with a real firsthand account of watching him do this work. I have no reluctance in saying that. No, of course I don't.
Wow. Wow. Amazing. There you have it. So Kamala Harris is basically co-signing this idea that Joe Biden is 100% fine, right? He has all of the capabilities needed to do the job and to do the job well, which he has not done the job well. He also does not have the capabilities. He's clearly not in the sharpest headspace, okay? We all know that. And if Kamala Harris can't see that, then that definitely speaks of her judgment, right? Her judgment is bad, okay? Either you were honest with the American people, which she says that she was, right? She was honest. She worked with Joe Biden and he is fully capable, according to her. Either that or you're not being honest. Now, Kamala Harris is basically trying to say that she was honest and that she was not aware of Joe Biden's mental deterioration, which tells you everything you need to know about her ability as president of the United States to judge people and to judge situations, right? That's what's happening here. She's basically admitting that her judgment is bad, okay? Now, I understand why she's giving the answer that she's giving, because she doesn't want to throw Joe Biden on the bus, because Joe Biden is basically a ticking time bomb, because we all know that he's pissed off at the Democrats for staging a coup against him. He didn't really want to drop out. He didn't think that he had a bad debate. He thinks he's the only person that can beat Trump, and he thinks that Kamala Harris is weak, okay? This is what he told Obama. She's not as strong as me, and Obama agreed. So Kamala already knows that Joe Biden does not have a very high opinion of her. So if she comes out and completely throws Joe Biden on the bus, then Joe Biden could come out publicly and start to say things that really, really, really would make it tough for Kamala Harris, right? So she's kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place here. And this is why she really didn't want to answer the question. And throughout this whole interview, she didn't want to answer any questions, really. And that's what we have to talk about, because she got some questions that, in my opinion, were layups, and she just completely fumbled when answering these questions that she could have answered with a simple yes or no. Like, for example, does she think that racism is a factor in the reason why men are rejecting her? Take a look.
Let me ask you about something that you said when you were running for president the last time around, back in 2019. At the time, you said that the elephant in the room was whether the country was ready for a woman and a woman of color to be president. So let me ask you, as you sit here today, do you think the country is ready now for a woman and a woman of color to be president?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You've been reluctant to lean into, to talk about the historic nature of your candidacy on the campaign trail. Why is that?
Well, I'm clearly a woman. I don't need to point that out to anyone. The point that most people really care about is, can you do the job? And do you have a plan to actually focus on them?
I hear you on that.
That is why I spend the majority of my time listening and then addressing the concerns, the challenges, the dreams, the ambitions, and the aspirations of the American people. They deserve.
I ask because to implement the agenda that you want to implement, you have to win first. You have to win the White House. And right now there is a big gender gap in this race. Fewer men support you right now than they did President Biden. Some of your allies have suggested there's sexism at play. I wonder, do you think there is sexism at play here?
Let me just tell you something. You've come to my events, and you will see there are men and women at those events, whether it be small events or events with 10,000 people. So the experience that I am having is one in which it is clear that regardless of someone's gender, they want to know that their president has a plan to lower cost, that their president has a plan to secure America in the context of our position around the world. They want a president of the United States who honors our military, who understands the importance of America's leadership around international rules and norms. And that is regardless of gender.
So
and that is how I will lead.
Do you not see sexism as a factor in this race at all?
I don't think of it that way. My challenge is the challenge of making sure I can talk with and listen to as many voters as possible and earn their vote. And I will never assume that anyone in our country should elect a leader based on their gender or their race. Instead, that leader needs to earn the vote based on substance and what they will do to address challenges and to inspire people to know that their aspirations and their ambitions can and will be achieved through the opportunity to do that.
Wow. Wow. Incredible. Incredible. Guys, I don't think I've ever seen a politician that is worse at being a politician than Kamala Harris. Okay. It is unbelievable to think about the millions of dollars that her consultants get paid to basically tell her how to lose, right? She cannot answer one simple question. It doesn't matter what the question's about. She just specializes in word salads and just dancing around answering any questions directly, even questions that make sense for you to answer directly. All you got to say is no. No, I do not believe that sexism is a factor in this race. In fact, I think that the American people, we're ready to move past accusing people of bigotry just because of political disagreements. Okay, so I do not believe that sexism is a factor. I have to earn everybody's vote, whether they be men or women. And furthermore, anybody suggesting that people are not supporting me because of sexism, they don't speak on my behalf. It's really that simple, right? It's really that simple. And the reason why, if I was her, I would say something like that is because you want to make it clear that no, you're not sexist just because you choose not to support me, right? That is why Kamala and her campaign and the Democrats are getting a whole lot of backlash right now. It's because you have a bunch of Kamala surrogates, including former President Obama, coming out here and claiming that men who don't support Kamala Harris are sexist, trying to shame voters into supporting her. And it would do her some good to actually show leadership, okay, when it comes to her own surrogates and to shoot down talking points that are not helping her, right? Like, for example, having your surrogates accuse people of sexism and racism and hate just because they don't want to support you. This woman is dumb, right? That's the only conclusion I can come to at this point. Every answer does not need to be a non-answer. Every answer does not have to be a word salad. There's some questions that you can answer directly. It makes sense to answer directly. It makes sense to say yes or no. When it comes to that particular question, a layup question, it just would have made sense just to say no. But again, this woman is a robot. She does not have the ability to think for herself. All she knows is that, well, let me do what my consultants told me to do. Let me dance around it. Never give a direct answer to any question whatsoever, okay? Unless I'm 100% sure that it's a safe answer, okay? I'm not going to give any direct answer whatsoever. And that's what's happening here, 100%. If she does not have clear and direct talking points that she has went over and rehearsed 1,000 times with her handlers, if she does not have those answers to a question, then she won't answer the question, right? She just won't do it. She just refuses to. Clearly, that's what's going on here. Because again, a smart person, a leader, would have answered that question. That's the easy one. But again, this was a theme throughout this whole interview. I want to play another clip here of Kamala Harris refusing to answer the question about whether or not she supports so-called gender-affirming care. Take a look.
On the question of your beliefs, what you believe in, let me ask you this question very broadly speaking here.
Sure.
Do you believe that transgender Americans should have access to gender-affirming care in this country?
I believe we should follow the law. I mean, I think you're probably pointing to the fact that Donald Trump's campaign has spent tens of millions of dollars.
They're trying to define you on this.
Yes,
I'm asking you to define yourself, though. Just broadly speaking, what is your value? Do you believe they should have that access?
I believe that people, as the law states, even on this issue about federal law, that is a decision that doctors will make in terms of what is medically necessary. I'm not going to put myself in the position of a doctor, but let's also understand that Donald Trump is running tens of millions of dollars in ads to talk about two cases, to distract from the fact that his policy and plan is also to take away the Affordable Care Act, which provides health care for tens of millions of people in our country.
I will move on, but I don't know that I heard a clear answer from you on the issue of gender-affirming care. It sounds like what you're saying is this should be something between trans Americans and their doctors. It feels like that's a long way from "we see you and we love you," which was your message to trans Americans in May. What do you want the LGBTQ plus community to know as they're looking for a full-throated backing from you for trans Americans?
I believe that all people should be treated with dignity and respect. period, and should not be vilified for who they are, and should not be bullied for who they are. And that is a true statement for me my entire career, and that has not changed.
Wow. So another non-answer here from Kamala Harris, clearly for political reasons. Is like I told you guys before in prior videos, Democrats are running far away from the far left woke agenda because they know that it is massively unpopular, right? And you can see that because, again, Kamala Harris here, she refuses to answer the question about whether or not she supports gender-affirming care. Now, it wasn't, do you support gender-affirming care for illegals, which she does, right? She has before in the past. No, it was just, in general, do you support it? Now, typically, Democrats would not hesitate to answer this question. They would just say, yes, I support it. But here we go. Once again, Kamala Harris not answering the question. And in my opinion, I think this one could actually backfire in the sense that nobody is going to believe her non-answer of, well, we should just follow the law. Because it's not like she's saying that I don't agree with it or that I don't support it. And we know that she has a record of supporting it. Okay, I mean, to the point where she believes that we should have taxpayer-funded sex change operations, right? This is what she believes, okay? So nobody's going to believe her that she, again, is somehow against it because she says that we should follow the law, right? So she's not gaining any points from that answer, but she could possibly lose some points with the far left base because we all know how these woke activists think, right? If you don't agree with them 100%, if you don't come out here and give a full-throated endorsement, right? If you don't get behind the woke agenda 100%, then you might as well be a far right winger, right? And the fact that Kamala Harris is basically trying to run away from the far left woke agenda, I think is going to piss off the activists, to be honest with you, right? That's exactly what it's going to do. That's exactly what it's going to do. So to me, this word salad non-answer here probably is going to end up backfiring. But again, what you're saying is that she's being coached on this. She's either being coached on it or she's too dumb to figure out how to answer the question in real time without always trying to make political calculations of whether or not she should actually answer the question or not, right? There's some questions where it's like, look, you got to take a stance, right? Giving non-answers when you've clearly had stances on these issues in the past, it's just not going to cut it. And if anything, you're going to lose both sides, right? That's typically what happens. The people that try to ride the middle, you end up losing both sides because it shows that you don't have any real convictions. If Kamala Harris had real convictions, right? If she stuck to her far left positions, yes, I could say that she's a radical leftist. However, I could also say, well, at least she believes it. At least she's sticking to her principles, right? But I can't even say that now, considering how she's basically trying to abandon her far left principles, but yet she's not taking any real clear stance about where she's at right now, right? It would be nice if Kamala Harris, if she didn't believe in gender affirming care, it'd be nice if she came out and said, no, I don't believe in it for X, Y, and Z reasons, right? But she's not even doing that. She just said, well, I believe in following the law. Again, that's not telling us anything at all, right? That's just a cop-out. And again, when you cop out like that, you're not gaining any points with people who don't agree with it, and you're not gaining points with people who do agree with it, because the people who do agree with it, they're going to want you to come out here and say that you are going to fight for them, right? That's what they want you to say. And when you come out here and say that, well, I'm going to follow the law, that's basically like saying that, well, I'm not really going to fight for it. And this is part of the reason why Kamala Harris is struggling, why voters don't trust her. Her number one issue is trust. People don't trust her. So when you come out here and you continue to give these non-answers, you continue to avoid answering any question directly, you avoid actually telling us what you believe or taking any strong stances on anything outside of abortion, right? That's the only thing she'll take a strong stance on. That's it. Anything outside of that, she's not taking a strong stance on anything, okay? She's going to try to be as ambiguous as possible, and that's just not going to cut it. It's just making people distrust her even more. That's what's happening. So again, I found what's happening to Kamala Harris to be hilarious. What is happening to her should be studied in political science for the next 500 years, okay? Because she really is putting on a clinic when it comes to how to tank your own campaign, because she's doing a disastrous job. I hope she continues these interviews. Continue to do these interviews, Kamala, because the more interviews that this woman does, the more that she collapses, right? The more that her numbers continue to tank. And you can clearly see why from this interview. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.